Let's talk about bridges. They're more than just structures of steel and concrete. They're lifelines connecting people, places, and possibilities. Bridges keep you dry, link communities, and sometimes, they even shape the destinies of entire economies by making the impossible, possible. For decades, the US-Canada economic relationship has depended on the aging Ambassador Bridge between Detroit and Windsor, a creaking, privately owned relic from 1929 that has seen nearly a century of history pass over its span. This single crossing handles nearly a quarter of all truck trade between the two nations, making it one of the busiest international border crossings in North America. The need for a modern alternative was obvious. The old bridge simply couldn't keep up with the demands of today's global trade. Enter the Gordie Howe International Bridge, a 6-lane $6.4 billion Canadian marvel, named after a hockey legend, set to open in September 2025. It's a project that's as ambitious as it is necessary. The plan? Build a state-of-the-art trade corridor to secure the future of the world's most integrated economic partnership, ensuring goods and people can move freely and efficiently. Windsor and Detroit's economies, especially in autos, are so intertwined they function like one giant cross-border factory, with each side relying on the other to keep the wheels turning. Car parts can cross the border up to 7 times before a vehicle is finished. A logistical ballet that needs smooth, predictable traffic to keep production lines humming. The Gordie Howe Bridge was designed to keep that performance going for another century, future-proofing trade and travel for generations to come. Canada funded the project, planning to recoup costs through tolls, betting on endless streams of trucks and cars that would keep the economic engine running strong. For a while, everything went smoothly. Construction advanced, deadlines were met, and optimism was high. Towers rose, the deck stretched across the river, and the bridge became a beacon of progress, symbolizing hope and cooperation. It was more than concrete and steel. It was a multi-billion-dollar bet on the enduring strength of the US-Canada relationship, and a testament to what two nations can achieve together. But just as the finish line came into view, the ground shifted beneath everyone's feet. Unforeseen challenges began to emerge, threatening to upend years of careful planning. The bet was placed right before the rules of the game changed, leaving everyone to wonder what the future would hold for this bridge of hope and hockey legends. Enter Donald Trump, the human foghorn, whose every word seems to echo across borders and stir up controversy. On his very first day back in the Oval Office, January 2025, Trump wasted no time. He announced a sweeping blanket 25% tariff on all Canadian imports, set to take effect in April. The news sent shockwaves through both countries, leaving businesses scrambling to understand what would come next. This wasn't just a warning shot, it was a full-blown torpedo aimed directly at the heart of US-Canada trade, threatening to upend decades of economic partnership. By March, Trump doubled down, slapping another 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum. He threatened to double those tariffs again, and even vowed to shut down Canada's auto industry, escalating tensions to new heights. The stated reasons for these drastic moves? Everything from fentanyl smuggling to protecting American jobs. Claims that, upon closer inspection, didn't hold up to scrutiny and seemed more like political theater than sound policy. The tariffs were a political performance, but their impact was painfully real. Devastating consequences rippled through workers, families, and businesses on both sides of the border, leaving uncertainty and hardship in their wake. The USMCA, painstakingly negotiated to stabilize North American trade, suddenly looked fragile, its future hanging by a thread. With a major review looming in 2026, the fate of the agreement was thrown into doubt, and leaders on all sides braced for a turbulent renegotiation. The very foundation of North American economic integration, built over generations, was now being systematically dismantled, piece by piece. The promise of stability and prosperity that the Gordie Howe Bridge once represented was drowned out by the relentless noise and uncertainty of a new trade war, leaving the future more uncertain than ever. Canada didn't just sit back. In April 2024, Mark Carney, a former central banker, became Prime Minister. Carney's government responded firmly, vowing to keep retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods until respect was restored. For Canada, deeply dependent on U.S. trade, rolling over wasn't an option. They targeted U.S. industries and political districts with their own tariffs, a classic tit-for-tat, but with higher stakes than ever. There were attempts at de-escalation. Canada dropped a planned digital services tax, and Ontario suspended a tariff on electricity exports. Trump walked back some threats but left the core steel and aluminum tariffs in place. Canada began hedging its bets, accelerating trade ties with the EU and UK to reduce reliance on the US. The days of taking the US-Canada relationship for granted were over. Canada was preparing for a future where its economic destiny wasn't tied to Washington's whims. The relationship had fundamentally changed. Nowhere did the tariff war hit harder than the auto industry. The impact was immediate and far-reaching, sending shockwaves through every link in the chain. Michigan and Ontario's auto sectors are conjoined twins, sharing a constant flow of parts and vehicles. Every day, thousands of components cross the border, weaving together a complex tapestry of manufacturing. A 25% tariff was like a blood clot in that shared artery. Everything seized up. Production lines ground to a halt, and uncertainty rippled through the workforce. Stellantis idled its Windsor minivan plant for 2 weeks. Thousands of jobs were put on hold overnight. The silence in the factory was a stark reminder of how fragile the system had become. Michigan could lose up to 13,000 jobs in 5 years. For many families, the future suddenly looked uncertain, with paychecks and stability hanging in the balance. These aren't just numbers, they're livelihoods. Each job lost means a family struggling to make ends meet, a community feeling the strain. Up to 40% of Michigan's auto parts come from Canada. The two economies are deeply intertwined, relying on each other for survival and growth. When those parts get expensive, the whole industry is threatened. Costs rise, profits shrink, and the pressure mounts on everyone from suppliers to assembly line workers. It's a self-inflicted wound, punishing American workers to protect American interests. The very policies meant to help are instead causing pain at home. Meanwhile, a brand new bridge meant to make trade more efficient is opening as policies make that trade impossible. The irony is hard to ignore. The Gordie Howe Bridge, built to connect, now risks becoming a monument to economic folly. Its empty lanes stand as a symbol of missed opportunity and policy gone awry. The very industry it was meant to serve is being suffocated by tariffs, leaving factories idle and dreams deferred. So, is the Gordie Howe International Bridge about to become the world's most expensive white elephant, a grand project with an uncertain future? Its business model relied on high traffic, now evaporating thanks to tariffs and shifting trade patterns. Projections of $108 million a year in tolls by 2035 were based on bustling, tariff-free trade and optimistic forecasts. With factories shuttered and cross-border travel down, the trucks and tourists needed to pay off the bridge simply aren't coming. After Trump's inflammatory remarks, Canadian visits to the US dropped 32%, a dramatic and lasting decline. The risk is real. This engineering marvel could open to the sound of crickets. A monument to a broken relationship between neighbors. A bridge to nowhere, built for a future that's vanishing before our very eyes. Beneath the economic chaos is a diplomatic relationship in deep freeze. By early 2025, US and Canadian leaders weren't talking directly, just trading barbs on social media. This isn't diplomacy, it's a high school feud on a global stage. The toxic rhetoric has real consequences. Cross-border travel plummets, cooperation stalls, and goodwill evaporates. The world is watching. The EU responded to US tariffs with $28 billion in counter-tariffs. The US, by picking fights with friends, is pushing allies to form new blocs that exclude America. The result: chilling silence where dialogue should be. Managing the world's largest trading relationship requires communication and compromise, now replaced by public insults. The diplomatic deep freeze is as dangerous as the economic one, making solutions impossible to find. September 2025. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is about to open, a $6.4 billion symbol of ambition and cooperation. But the world it was built for, free trade, mutual respect, stable alliances, may be gone. The bridge is now a paradox, a physical link between nations being torn apart. As it opens, it may serve only a fraction of the traffic it was designed for, its empty lanes a silent rebuke to destructive policies. The jobs and prosperity it promised are in doubt. The friendship it celebrated is in tatters. The 2026 USMCA review looms, a chance to salvage or destroy North American trade. The Gordie Howe Bridge is now a metaphor, a structure built on trust, cracking under political pressure. A bridge is only as strong as the willingness of people to cross it, and right now, we seem more interested in building walls.